So Trump says he plans on closing the Department of Education, but like, what does that really mean? Yeah, that's what this chit chat is about. Come on. The Department of Education was established in 1979 with a few goals in mind. Number one, they wanted to improve and centralize federal oversight of education. Number two, they wanted to enhance educational equity. And number three, they wanted to ensure better access to quality education for everybody. You can to yourself, like, yuck, ugh, throw it in the trash. Said nobody ever except Donald Trump. There are like a whole slew of reasons as to why the Department of Education was actually formed, but there are a few key reasons. After World War II, the federal government started being heavily interested in higher education, thus things like the GI Bill and the National Defense Education Act were created. You also had the Civil Rights Movement, which gave birth to things like Brown versus the Board of Education. It also gave way to the Elementary and Secondary Act, which forced the government to address educational inequities in low income areas. And then there was the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. In 1970, there was an uptick in recognition that kids with disabilities weren't getting adequate education. So in the 1980s, when the Department of Education began operating, it began to administer and enforce programs that would help provide adequate education for students with disabilities. I want to get into a little bit of the budget, right? Okay, so let's drop down to the green. Title I grants. This is a grant that provides funding to schools with large percentages of kids from low income families. Imagine 14.41 billion gone off the budget. And let's drop down to the yellow. Remember the Individuals with Disability Acts? Okay, so they're getting about $13 billion currently, but all of that would be gone as well. Department of Education also provides Pell Grant funding. So that is almost $29 billion going. Oh, I'm sorry. What are Pell Grants? Pell Grants go to students from low income families who are pursuing higher education. And then you have almost $24 billion in student loan programs. Raise your hand if you applied for a student loan to go to college. Yeah, like, because who's paying for college out of pocket? Not a lot of people. In that other column, things like your free after school program, things like free lunch for low income students, all go inside of that budget. Things like civil rights, making sure that universities and schools don't discriminate because of your age, race, gender, or sexual orientation. You tell me, should we be closing the Department of Education, or should we just not be voting for the person who wants to close the Department of Education? Let's chit chat.